am a person who believes in the power of words. I am a person who has been blessed with a life that has literally been built on punctuation marks and syllables and alphabets and so on and so on. And so I'm really excited to be here with you because I've been told that it is a focus of the church that young people should read. And it is one of the things that I am incredibly passionate about, because that is how we build ourselves and build our communities, through the power of information, through the power of knowledge. Growing up, I was always a person who loved reading. I was always working in the library as a library monitor. I was always trying to see if I could take out more books than we were allowed. And even during the school holidays, I was a person who just wanted to, of course, play and have fun with my friends. But as soon as the house was done being cleaned and we were allowed to go inside for lunch, I'll just try and sneak a book and go sit behind my grandmother's sofa and read as well. So I'm just a person who has enjoyed and immensely loved reading. In 2016, one of the scariest statistics came out about our basic education situation in South Africa. It was told to us through the Pearls Report, which is the Progress in Reading and Literacy report, that 78% of young people in grade 4 were not able to read for meaning in any language. And so not only in English, but also in their own mother tongues, they were not able to read the information that was being presented to them, understand it, and respond adequately. And so the terrible thing that also happened is that then in 2021, and now obviously the first one was about 2016. So in 2021, where the other report came out, it came out then that this has gotten worse. It wasn't just 78% anymore. We were now sitting with a situation of 81% of grade 4 learners who cannot read for meaning at all. And this is obviously an indictment on the basic education department, but it also speaks about the many losses of the COVID pandemic. The losses were many. There was of course a loss of lives. There was a loss of income for so many people. But on top of that, it was the inability for a generation of young people to crucially grapple with information in a way that will unfortunately continue to impact them for the rest of their lives. So if any of you now are in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5 and onwards, I really do urge you to not only get information and knowledge from your phones and your tablets and TV and YouTube and everywhere else you go, but to also take a deep interest in the power of a book and the way in which you can turn a page, because this entire experience of our humanity really is built on stories. The Bible itself is full of incredible testimonies and stories, because that is the center of how we connect with people. It is the center of how we build community. It is the center of how we make ourselves better as people, and of course to be able to afford ourselves the kind of futures we want. And the important thing, I think, with thinking about literacy in South Africa is that we know that we are living in a society that is very challenged, and it is challenged on all of the levels, including the fact that, you know, our government and our situation with the state, it is what it is, as we know, and we believe in what we believe in, but at the end of the day, we have to build a country in which all of us can live and flourish and thrive, and not just here and now, but also for the future, also thinking of how it is that we go forward. And the importance of reading is the fact that it really enables you as a person to have a choice, but it also enables you as a person to be able to critically decide on a path for yourself. And I do, without being too much of a conspiracy theorist, you know, I do find it so deeply sad that the situation with basic education is what it is, and it seems like there's very little will from the powers that be to make the situation better. Unfortunately, South Africa is one of the only countries really where there is no singular reading development plan that spans across the nation, a single plan to ensure that the the ways in which children grapple with words and literacy is something that can be accounted for and is something that can be measured and something that can really be tested in a way to ensure that by the time children move to intermediate phase and then senior phase in primary school, they have those foundational aspects of being able to critically engage with words and information that will help them to progress as they go to high school, as they go to university and so on. So I just want to urge everyone sitting here today to just, whatever it is that you enjoy, because of course when it comes to reading, the immense pleasure from the power of reading is that it is about what you like. It is about what you enjoy. So if you are someone who even enjoys math, if you enjoy sport, if you enjoy fashion and style or music, whether you want to become a doctor or a lawyer or an influencer even, whether you want to become a celebrity and a really famous person when you grow up, no matter what it is, you need to be able to read. You need to be able to receive information, to see what this information is saying, to understand whether this information is presented in your best interest and how it is you can move forward. And of course, this is now what we're speaking about that is foundational to reading and writing. And whenever I speak about this, it's important for me to just say that a country of young people or a country of people who are unable to critically engage with information is a country that does not have individuals who can lead themselves. It is a country full of individuals who are led by circumstance, who are led by the government, who are led by wherever society is going, but lack the foundational ability to decide for themselves and create a future that will withstand some of the challenges that society faces as a collective. So I just want to remind you all that regardless of what it is that you love, regardless of what it is you enjoy, not only is reading fundamental to any of it, including becoming an accountant or a doctor or a pilot, but it is also somehow a way for you to distinguish yourself, for you to empower yourself with knowledge and information, for you to stand out in a room of people. And I think that there are so many ways in which people can be blessed, of course, right? You can be blessed because you are really fast or really athletic. Perhaps you're incredibly beautiful. Perhaps you're so talented as a painter or a singer, right? We can have all of our talents, but one way to enhance those God-given talents is to be so interested and curious about the world and about what we love that we empower ourselves with knowledge, so that anywhere we go into the room, not only can you maybe be the one who sings the best or the one who is the prettiest or the one who has the best dance moves or the one who sings and is so incredible with math, you know? Not only are you that, but you can also perhaps aim to be the smartest person in the room, and not to be the smartest person in the room in a way that is arrogant, but in the way of constantly seeking knowledge, constantly being curious about the world, constantly wanting to know how things work and how it is that you can apply yourself to make society a little bit better. And so in this very blessed life I've been living that is built out of words and punctuations and paragraphs and pages, you know, I've been able to be blessed to write 14 books. And now my 15th book is like shortly on the way. Thank you. And now that book is shortly on the way. And I started all of this because I wanted to read books with people who look like me on them. And even though I grew up in a world where those books were not common, it didn't take away from the fact that these are incredible books and I'm learning so much. And I was able to learn about people from faraway places. I was able to imagine and dream through these tools. And now I just wanted to be part of the people who are saying, how can we make reading and learning more interesting for South African children, right? And so all of my books so far, the 8 and now almost 9 that I have that are based around the central character named Bumi, all of those are translated in all 11 official languages. And the reason why that is so important for me Thank you. The reason why that is so important for me is because I want a child, no matter where you are, no matter where you live. Personally, I'm a Ndebele person and a Swati person. And interestingly, being Ndebele and Swati, those are the languages that are least represented in terms of the media and in terms of even literacy, right? But even with that, if there's one child in South Africa who is 5 to 6 years old and wants to read a book about a character who believes in magic and who's in Johannesburg and enjoying the sights of the city through a child's eyes, right? If there is a child who speaks Ndebele, Chisonga, Siswati, Setswana, anywhere in South Africa, anywhere in the world, I want them to be able to experience the power of a story in their own language, right? And so to eventually grow up and be proficient in whatever language, including English, I think part of what keeps our cultures alive, part of what keeps us going and authentic in who we are, is our ability to also acknowledge what a cornerstone it is to have our cultures. And our cultures are not something that just exist. It is through our practices and our deeds. As an anthropologist, I am a person who is an academic of culture. I'm interested in the languages, in the forms, in the arts, and the aesthetics of the ways in which we organize ourselves as a collective to say, this is our culture. This is what we do. And so part of that study and the studies that I do in my doctoral studies is to really be interested in the fact that we are constantly creating culture. It constantly develops. It is something that we are active in as participants. And right now, there is a book, The Tortoise and the Ostrich by Mama Katarina Eso. And she is a Ngu speaker. She's part of the people who are part of the San and the Khoi, who are one of the first indigenous peoples in this region, right? And so one of the amazing things that she's doing is that she's the last person who is fluent in this language, and she's made it her mission to teach people her language. But something that her story and her advocacy and her community, what that always reminds me of is that language isn't just here. Language needs its practitioners, it needs its people, and language is a cornerstone of culture. And so it is important for us to preserve our ways of speaking, to preserve our ways of thinking in books, not just through the spoken language, because we can't afford to, 100 years from now, have people come and say, they didn't have books. They don't have a culture. They only had oral tradition. They only spoke. And so they were a lesser intelligent society, which is what has happened to Africa through history, right? And so I think it is important for us to recognize where we are coming from as Africans, being the society that was told only has the oral form of tradition or the oral form of storytelling. And these people did not write and read. Perhaps they were not so smart, right? And that, of course, is not true, right? We have been here as Africans for very long. And as Africans, we are actually some of the first people to populate the planet in general. And through the theory of the Great Migration, everyone who has now populated Australia, Europe, everywhere else, we all came from Africa and we moved outwards. And so for us to have contributed so greatly to the story of the world, to the existence of who we are as humanity, and yet be constantly told that we are people who do not have knowledge systems or people who do not have any forms of high culture that are worth preserving, that is something that we should always be cognizant of. And as young people who are going to be brilliant and incredible, and no matter what it is you choose, always be mindful of the history that we've walked as a collective, and that something that is central to how it is that we are going to perpetuate ourselves and to challenge these narratives that have been so deeply ingrained in the history of the world is by writing back and speaking back and telling the truth. Right? And these are truths that we must also be incredibly intentional about codifying within books and within literature. And so I think my mission in the world really is to just spread the magic of stories, but to also speak about the significance and the importance of stories as foundational to who we are. And as an anthropologist, my interest is that 100 years from now, we won't be here, but what will remain of us It will be our stories. It will be our books. It will be our knowledge. And hopefully it will be our cultural systems which will endure because we practiced enough to write about them and tell about them. And so all of us begin somewhere. And as a young girl reading books, I'm so incredibly blessed and grateful that I'm able to live a life that has really been built on these words, that I can write these books, that I can speak these words, that I can say these poems, and that I can also be part of this thing that I'm so passionate about, which is leaving these reminders that we existed and we were here and our stories mattered. And our stories range from all kinds of stories, whether it is non-fiction or fiction, whether it is cookbooks and children's books, all of it matters. And I just encourage all of you to not only keep on reading and keep on seeing the value in books, but if you are so moved, to also be part of those people who encode who we are into our systems moving forward, to be one of those people who treasure and completely capture who we are and the essence of who we are in the form of course, all kinds of things, including film and media and books and so on. I just encourage you all to hopefully find yourselves in a mission that also includes teaching and speaking and just spreading a sense of community around the things you love, no matter what those things are. And so part of my excitement of being here today is that I get to have the honor of welcoming Omoholo Onyane, right? Who is our debut author, who has written an incredible, funny, hilarious book called A Boy in His Underpants. And it is the book that you are seeing here. Please can we give her a big, big, big round of applause? I only wrote my first book when I was about, I think, 27. So how old are you?
10.
She's 10 years old and she's written this incredibly beautiful, stunning book. So I wanted to ask you, Omoholo, what made you decide that, you know what? I'm 10 years old. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to be an author. What helped you reach that decision?
So, my mom is a publisher and my grandmother is an author. So, I've started reading books since I was in grade 1 and went to the library too. And then I found out how amazing books was, so I decided to write one myself.
That is so incredible. I love that. I love that. And I love that, you know, your grandma was an author, your mom was a publisher, and it sounds like you grew up in a house that was full of books, right? But even if the house isn't full of books, that's okay because there is the library. And libraries are fantastic because they are this constant resource of stories and imagination and knowledge. And so I want you to tell us about this book. And in fact, could you please read the synopsis for us so we all get a sense of what A Boy in His Underpants is all about?
Imagine underpants so amazing you'd want to wear them for the whole world to see. That's exactly what Ganyo thinks of his new birthday gift. But when his love for these incredible underpants leads to a surprise adventure, what magical moments await? Join Ganyo on a journey filled with laughter, daring escapades, and a splash of mystery. Will his family understand his special bond with his underpants? Can a pair of underpants truly change the world, or at least make an unforgettable day? Dive into this delightful tale to find out what secret adventures lies ahead for Ganyo. This is a story about being yourself, celebrating differences, and the special kind of magic that only comes once a year on your birthday. Perfect for young readers eager for a giggle, a gasp, and perhaps a lesson in the joys of being uniquely themselves.
I love that. Doesn't that sound so exciting? A little boy and his underpants and his unique expression through this form of dress. And I wanted to say this is clearly about a little boy who wants to stand out, right? And that's how much he just loves this item. And I wanted to ask you, Omoholo, what inspired this specific story about this little boy and the love he has for his underpants?
I have a brother named Ubi Ganyo, who we sometimes call him Ganyo. So he loves wearing his nappy, first of all. So we decided to change the nappy instead to underpants.
And so that's what inspired the story, your little brother, and moving from diapers to underpants. And I love that because it shows you that stories are hiding everywhere. Stories are just around the corner. Stories are just whenever you turn, right? Because here's Omoholo with her little brother, and just in that small developmental milestone of going from diapers to pants, Omoholo found a story. And I love that because there are stories truly everywhere. Omoholo, I'm so interested. You're 10 years old, you have your first book. Am I right to think that you would like to continue to be an author and continue to bless us with wonderful stories in the forms of books?
Yes, I would love to be an author and continue writing books.
Fantastic. I mean, you already are an author, so I mean, that is very amazing. So you're going to continue in this career, and I think that's so incredible. And I would love to just I love the fact that, we have younger and younger people who are interested in stories, because right now the biggest fight when it comes to books and so on is the encroachment of like screens and tablets and YouTube and Netflix and everything. So of course, while those things are fantastic because they are sources of information as well, I think books, there's nothing like a book. There's nothing like going to bed and reading a really fun story, or sitting with your parents or sitting with your siblings and sharing and reading a story together. Is that how you grew up? Did you grow up having stories read to you?
Yeah, in fact, I have a whole bookshelf of them.
Oh, I love that. And that is so incredible, right? Like having an entire bookshelf of stories to draw from, inspiration. This is really, really great, Omoholo. So, do you know what I know this is the first story, and this is the book launch of the first book, but do you already know what direction you'd like to go? Are we going to tell more stories about Ganyo and his underpants, or do you think you want to experiment with other characters and other things?
I would continue with Ganyo. I would continue writing the same books, the same characters and everything, and maybe add some of my family members.
Oh, I love that. And that's so special to be able to memorialize your family members in a book. That's really cool. And how old is Ganyo, by the way?
In the story, he's 6, but in real life, he's actually 2 years old.
He's actually 2 years old, and he's already the subject of a book. So Kanyo's famous and he doesn't even know yet, and he's gonna grow up as like the main character inspiration for this series of books. And I think that's absolutely delightful because that'll probably inspire him to also enjoy books, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. I think that's phenomenal. So, very important question. Where can we get this incredible book?
So if you go across the bridge near the lake, there's a bunch of tents, and you can buy there. It's only 120 rand.
Perfect. So everybody, you've heard it. We can support our wonderful debut author, Omoholo Shonyane, by going across the bridge to the tent and getting her fantastic new book, A Boy in His Underpants, for 120 Rand. And through getting this book and reading this book and sharing, I hope that so many of us here also think about the dream we have perhaps to be writers and also begin. But also, I hope that we just really support a young author's dream so that she can do incredible things with her life. So God can bless her to spread the power of words and stories. And so that Kanyo, of course, can maybe also decide to do something very interesting in these books through your authorship. So I really do hope that we all go and support Omoholo. Omoholo, is there anything else you'd really, really like to share with the audience?
Yes. Everybody, please, please, I'm begging you, please come buy my book.
And
Please.
Omoholo, if we buy this book, do we get a signature? Are you going to sign the book for us?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, you've heard it.
Wait, by the way, no discount, so don't come asking me for a discount.
Okay, you've heard it. No discounts. And because this is a special launch, she'll even sign the book. This is wonderful. Please, can we give Omoholo and her book, A Boy in His Underpants, big round of applause. Congratulations.
Thank you.